Um, it says it's live. Not entirely sure if anyone can see it though. Okay, let me. I'm trying to remove that Luna picture, but I can't. Hey, hey Walker, wait a minute. Can I? Oh shit, the live stream's actually working. Holy shit, wait, let me get rid of this thing. It was a little test. Nobody look at that. Shit, how do I delete this? Yeah, I want to remove that. Okay, whew. That could have been ugly. Wait, is it gone? Did I get rid of that? Can y'all hear me? I need to make sure, because imagine if I was like ranting for hours on end, I didn't fucking, you didn't know what I was saying. Okay, good. So Luna picture's gone. That's good. We have progress. And I can see chat watching. Mm. It's better than the toxic PG streams. I mean, you're not wrong. Mythic, I know exactly what you're saying, and yes, I think you've pretty much predicted the stream. Although some people do think that there's one other co-creation that's worse than Sewing Factory, and if I have time for today, I might actually bring that one up. So, can y'all hear me? I just need to really make sure, because the last thing I want is to rant for about an hour and have nobody actually hear me. Hang on. Okay, that's good. That's great. So, you can actually hear me right now. Welcome everyone to a Delin Guho Unique Ways live stream where we're not going to be doing Unique Ways. Today we're going to be just ranting about co-creation levels that are pretty garbage, but also there's some pretty good co-creation levels. As much as I shit on Minimax and the new team at Rolling Sky, I think that there's a lot of levels that are really competently made. And again, even though this is mostly just my opinion on judging levels based on music, routes, textures, etc. I do want to get your opinions on this because I'm gonna make some controversial rankings, and if I see enough people saying, "Oh no, Hugo, that's really fucking stupid," then I'll probably move it up or down one tier. Oh look, hey SQDL dev. Audio is audible. Oh, what up, Kato? Okay, so I mean, like, here's the thing. There's really nothing else to this stream. It's literally just me talking for an hour about all the different levels and ranking them. So, I mean, might as well just just fucking get started now. I mean, in the future, I might make like an actual, good edited video about ranking the co-creation levels, and I could literally just pull highlights from this stream if I was too lazy, or I could just do nothing at all, which is why I just decided to make this stream, because why not? You might be wondering, where's all the fancy, background animations and stuff? Where's the Luna picture? How come you can't see chat in the stream? I'm sorry, this is my first time streaming, and I have no fucking clue what I'm doing, and I'm not going to try and push the limits here, so this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a solid stream of literally just the tier maker screen, no background music either, I'm not going to fuck around with that either, and we'll see what goes on. Oh look, hey Mama Cat. I see you. I'm not gonna make a joke on that. I'm sorry. That's a great idea. Let's put Lab Confidential in dog shit, and then I'll put Sewing Factory in A tier. Wait, why can I? My screen just froze. God damn it. Okay, there we go. I don't know if YouTube's gonna do something about me calling actual dog shit within the first 15 seconds of the video, but I'll just leave it up there because it's funny. Every single time I see a level I don't like, I'm gonna say it's absolute dog shit. Hey PB Brazil. Oh shit. It's such a pressure when actual co-routers are here watching the stream. I'm being perfectly honest when I say that I'm going to avoid any personal, like, interest whatsoever. So when it comes to people like Tenable or Professional Block, who I have a lot of things to say about them personally, then I'm not going to actually bring that up, and I'm going to judge the levels based on the quality of the routes themselves. Yeah, we're also going to apply the same mentality for TCT, because boy, do I have a lot of goddamn things to say about him, and some of them are not exactly the best things. Mama Cat, I'm reading, I'm pretty sure that's allowed, I don't know. Dylan Guho. Okay, well, I mean, like, listen, if sitting down and for an hour and listening to some random white kid talk about rolling scale levels isn't your thing, then you you should probably leave, because that's all we're going to be doing today. All right, Walker. Okay. You know what? I mean, should we just get started right now? But master ball and dog shit. I'm not going to reveal my thoughts on some of the more in the middle levels, the levels that I could possibly say that are good or bad. Why am I back? I had never left. If you were on Discord, it's pretty obvious that I'm on actually an extremely large amount of the time. It's just that YouTube isn't really my thing anymore, at least not for Rolling Sky. I do a lot of Helluva Boss stuff, though, because that's a good goddamn show, and I recommend watching it if you're, 16 or older. Probably don't watch it if you're 13. That's a bad idea. SQDL. Why is it that Mama Cat's comments are the only ones getting blocked by YouTube? I'm not even gonna let that one slide. I don't want YouTube to assassinate my channel before it's already dead. Okay, SQDL. I don't think all the musics are mid, but I do think there's a lot of good ones and a lot of shit ones, and there are some mid ones, which I'll definitely get to, and I have some of them in mind. You know what? Enough dilly-dallying, enough fucky-wucking. Let's just get started, I suppose. SQDL, I really don't know. You sound like you're 13, to be honest. Okay, Monica, you're the one to fucking talk. Okay, let's get started. Lab Confidential. It's good. It's not a masterpiece, unlike what a lot of people say. I think it's good. The reason for that is because the level, when it first came out, I was beyond disappointed, unlike any other level. Even some of the really bad ones, like Melodic, Metropolis, and Sewing Factory. Spoilers for later in the video. But the reason this is because firstly they completely trashed the mechanic. The mechanic was such a good goddamn idea. I mean, I don't even want to get too much into it, but essentially, those specimen tanks, instead of having like a weird thing inside of them, it had a gem, so you can actually smash through the tank and collect the gem. And I thought that was such a genius idea. And of course, they completely abandoned that, and that kind of pissed me off. The second thing was the objects. The way they translated the objects from the concept into the level was so atrociously laughable. Like, for example, the eyeball monster, it's just a 2D image, and then they extended it backwards. It's just... it was really stupid. Again, you have those laser pointing things, which they just cut the laser off halfway through. Like, is that how lasers are supposed to work? I'm sorry. I don't mean to be the actually kid, but this is just such an idiotic translation of the original concept. And at the time, I did feel bad for the concept maker, Dragon Sauce. I don't really feel bad for her anymore now that I realize Minimax just milks her concepts to shit. But at the time, I felt bad because this is a terrible, awful, disgusting translation of her work. And so it's going in the good tier. But then over time, I realized that it's actually got a lot of good things going for it. Despite how much I hate that end filter, the red filter, so much, I actually do like how it's used. I like how the music kind of ramps up. The music is definitely one of my favorite tracks in the entire goddamn game. And the red filter actually kind of complements that, I do have to admit. Second floor usage, it's pretty all over the place. It's pretty fucky-wucky. It's unsight-readable, but I still like it because it reminds me of a 2017 style, even though second floors didn't really exist back then, so that really makes no sense. But it really feels like a nostalgic style level. I do like what WF style. So, good tier it goes. It's not a masterpiece, it's got too many flaws, I'm sorry. The mechanic would be very cool though. Like, that really pisses me off. And I mean, this has nothing to do with my ranking of Lab Confidential, but because they did that, no other level now has a mechanic. Because they don't want to go back and say, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't add a mechanic for this level, but now we're adding them for all the new levels, because that would just piss off a lot of old concept makers. And that pisses me off because I know there's a future level that I'm aware of, made by someone who I'm not going to out yet, but essentially there is a cool idea where you'd have an obstacle, and there'd be a gem on the ground, and the obstacle emerges from the ground, and the gem floats up into the air. So it's like a trick gem obstacle. It was really cool. It was simple. And then what the devs do with this obstacle is they just have the gem model, but it's just it's an obstacle. Like you can't collect the gem. It just the gem just kills you. And it's so stupid. No, like I'm not even kidding. The gem, it looks like a gem, but then it just kills you. And there's basically no way to distinguish between if it's a real or a fake gem. And I thought that was used so horribly in the modeling team. Thankfully, I've seen some of the routes in the level. You know, the router actually has no idea how I got a hold of these recordings, but I have them. And I will give credit to the router where he didn't use this broken obstacle in ways that are annoying. He definitely tried to use it as little as possible because of how stupid it was. So I do respect that. But that we're getting too ahead of ourselves. That is going to be in season 2 for sure, which I'm going to rank somewhere in probably the masterpiece tier. I actually think that that level is really good, but I don't want to spoil too much. Let me read some comments so I'm not actually like ignoring too many people. Wait, let's see where let me hang on. I need to mute myself so I can see what part of the stream y'all can hear right now. All right, okay, I get it now. I see. Um, okay, I'd really appreciate if y'all didn't spam Giot in the chat. Here's the thing, Lab Confidential, now looking back at it, it was a great start, but at the time it was a pretty shit start. So that's why I'm putting a good tier. Mutation Crisis. It's okay. I'm sorry. A lot of people love this level. Some people would even call it a masterpiece. I don't. I think that Zoftel is a talented dubstep music creator. However, I think his music is better suited for Geometry Dash. It's really over the top. It's kind of goofy, and I hate the social credit vocal line. That was just so stupid. And I just think that his music gets pretty tiresome. I listened to a lot of his music when I first heard it announced for Rolling Sky, and all of his shit is pretty much the same, dog. Like, I mean, he has some variation here and there, but unlike artists like Creo and Wooden and Nightark P and your SCC, I really don't think that Zoftel has that much range, so I don't blame Minimax for only using one of his songs and then never fucking contacting him again. And I even know that Minimax has the rights to use at least 2 more Zoftel songs, but it's not a surprise to me that they didn't because unpopular opinion, I don't really like Zoftel, and I can tell Minimax agrees with me. You like the bonuses? I mean, that's pretty broad term, don't you think? But we'll get to that later. See, what time is it? 8:43. Okay, well, I mean, I expect to be finished at 9:30, but I mean, if we have extra time, then we can add in these atrocities, even though they're not part of season 1. We do have them, so we can always do that. I'm sorry, did somebody say they want me to bring the Luna? Somebody want me to bring the Luna PNG back? I can do it, you know. That was like a little test, and then I actually started the stream, and it was already up there, and it was too late. I haven't really finished my Mutation Crisis critique, have I? Mutation Crisis's routes are pretty disgusting. I am so sorry. They're not terrible. There's no big issues with them like Lab Confidential's second floor or the use of the filter or any of that extra noise, but at the same time, it is pretty ugly. I hate how he used the default laser cannons instead of just sticking with the pillar lasers like Lab Confidential did, because the default laser cannons look ugly as shit. Not only that, but just the rest in general, the way he uses flip tiles and mover autos and sliding tiles are just so gross. Like there's no organization whatsoever in a level that feels like it should be very organized, since it's a goddamn laboratory. It shouldn't be like built like a jungle. And that is a nice segue into my favorite level of all time, Jungle Expedition. Actual dog shit. Jungle Expedition it fails fundamentally at every single level of Rolling Sky route making, and what's so frustrating about this level that makes me hate it even more than other levels is that nobody agrees with me. Nobody goddamn understands why I hate this level to the extent that I do. I'm not entirely sure if swear words are allowed here, but I hope they are. Wow, there's actually 34 people watching. I'm actually surprised. I mean, I would settle for literally 5 people. I rented about every single one of these levels to one person, and I got the same level of enjoyment out of it. And I'm sure more people will watch the stream after it's done. I should really stop fucking around because it would take a long time if I just droned on like this in between every single level. I'm glad you agree with me, Mythic, because Jungle Expedition, I'm just going to try to explain why I hate it in the most objective way possible, but I'm going to jump some corners, and a lot of people are going to be like, oh, wait, he didn't explain this in enough detail. I'll try. I know a lot of people know that I don't particularly like Pony Dom. However, like I said, I'm going to try and keep all of my personal issues completely out of this. So this has nothing to do with unsuccessful person, has nothing to do with what Ponydom did in regards to Hasoni and Rolling Universe. But even if this is my favorite router of all time, I would still say that this level is an absolute dumpster fire. Firstly, the way they use blocks. We need to talk about blocks. Listen, if you're trying to make an immersive level like Jungle Expedition, and immersive is going to be a really important key point here, you should not use blocks in a way that Labyrinth uses blocks, and Jungle Expedition does exactly that. Jungle Expedition uses blocks in a way that feels way too organized to be a goddamn jungle level. And that's, I feel like, is the biggest issue with Jungle Expedition. It was made for the wrong concept. It was made for a concept which should have been organized, like Lab Confidential, but the way Ponydom built the routes is so unnecessarily flat and symmetrical and organized, and it does not fit a jungle vibe whatsoever. The way he uses objects is very uniform and straight, and none of it feels like you're in an actual jungle. And a big part of this is the blocks. The way he uses blocks is so atrociously disgusting, and it reminds me of those like little kid levels from 0.3R in RSR. And it's just especially the down blocks, the ones that move into the ground, he spams those so he spams them so goddamn much. I don't know why he does this. It's so ugly. Yeah, I mean, I guess Frogby described it in the best way possible. Jungle Expedition is just a very flat level. It doesn't feel like a jungle. It feels like a city mixed in with some random trees and shells everywhere. I just hate it. It's awful. Don't even get me started with the flip tiles and the way he uses the American football sideways speed boost. Those are just disgusting. I also hate the way that the difficulty is made. It starts off like a 3-star, maybe even arguably a 2-star, and then it just devolves into 5 stars because he starts spamming flip tile diagonals everywhere on the easy route. I don't know why he does this. It's so poorly planned out, and it really just goes to show that this guy had no fucking idea what he was doing when he made this absolute atrocity of a level. Not only that, I'm not done. I'm not done with this garbage fire. The reason why I hate this level again is because it uses the objects so poorly. The object balance is disgusting. He uses those surfboard things for 2 seconds at the beginning of the level, and then he never touches them again. He uses the monkey obstacles for 2 seconds, twice, and then never anywhere else in the level. And the entire level is just filled with ugly ass risers, those shell things, those totem things like the stone pillars, and nothing else. He doesn't even use the flame things that much. And not only that, but a lot of these obstacles had sliding tile variants, meaning that you could place them on sliding tiles, and this kid, Ponydom, didn't fucking use those at all. It was a complete waste of time and effort from the developers, and because Ponydom just had no idea what he was doing with this level. And then, of course, the stompers look ugly as shit, too. I think I'm done with this level. Also, the sight-readability is garbage, mostly due to the flip tiles and the blocks, like I mentioned before. It is a terrible level. It's not immersive. It's unplayable. It's unenjoyable, in my opinion. I will give credit, though, where it's due. The ending is good. I do think that the ending of the level, the last theme, is pretty good. He uses the mini jump pads, which sync perfectly. It really does actually feel like a jungle towards the end, and I would not be surprised if the majority of those routes from the ending came from Spheres, because Spheres was credited because Ponydom just used a bunch of his routes from other levels, and I would not be surprised in the slightest if the ending was heavily influenced by someone who is not Ponydom, because the ending did not feel like Ponydom. It was actually a good level. Mama Cat, and listen, I respect all opinions, even the shit ones. But I'm gonna put Jungle Expedition in actual dog shit. If I see enough people disagreeing with me, I might move it up to it's bad, because it does have some merit, but I don't see it. I'm not done ranting about this level because there's another thing that is actually out of Ponydom's control that also applies to tribal hunting, and this is the textures. The textures look so ugly. I've seen the original concept and it looks so much better than the final product, not only in the green theme, but especially in the blue theme. The blue theme objects look so disgustingly terrible. The way they use it, I mean, I don't even know where to start. Every single thing down to the flame obstacles, the shells, the rollers, they just look garbage because they're just this baby blue color and they don't stick out whatsoever. It just looks like a bunch of blue noise in that theme, and the way they texture it just looks so. It looks. Okay, and then the last thing I want to criticize about both of these two levels is that the background is pixelated for some reason. I don't know why this happened. I mean, the original concept looked fine. They just threw it through a bunch of fucking QQ group chats, and they never bothered to fix it after that. Absolutely lazy atrocity of a level. Okay, let me read some comments so I don't keep skipping over some stuff. The concept textures did look better to whatever that name is. Because, I mean, again, I do like Dragon Sauce's concepts, but firstly, Minimax just sucks at translating them. Secondly, I'm getting really tired of Dragon Sauce being used in the game. Their concepts are cool, but they get pretty repetitive, the style is the same, and it just really sucks that Minimax prioritizes so many of those concepts over other ones made by people who aren't as well known. So Minimax is essentially just glazing this one person, and it's getting pretty annoying over time. Hey, Games Legend. I know you expect me to shit on your level. I'm actually not going to. I have a lot of good and bad things to say about a lot of the later levels to come. Now, let me read some other things that people have said. Okay. You think tribal hunting is worse? I respect your opinion. I'm gonna put it in the it's bad category. Nope, Bouncing City, we haven't gone to that one yet. Tribal hunting is, I used to put it in atrocious in the actual dog shit tier, but I actually will put it in it's bad because I do respect the creator's attempt at immersion. And again, that's why I said immersion is an important word, because this level actually does feel like a jungle level. Despite how many flaws it has with the route designs, it has some pretty awful routes. I think that he really did try to make it immersive. He didn't use those stupid ass risers. He didn't use laser cannons at all, by the way, which is another good plus. And then the way he used all the obstacles was really cool because each theme had 3 obstacles each, so it felt like you were going through a new part of the jungle every single time. The first part feels like a temple, second part feels like the beach side, the third part feels like, the inside of a dark jungle, the fourth part feels like a river because that's why they have all the glass tiles lined up with all the surfboards and then the Marshmallow Alone seesaw block things. And I just saw all that was done really, really well. And I do appreciate how he integrated immersion, like, showcasing the point of the level with actual passable routes. Again, the routes are really flawed. That's why it's going in the it's bad category. And again, all the texture criticisms that I had before still apply to this level. So it's not as good as Mutation Crisis or a lot of other levels that I'm going to talk about. I'm allowing some of these swear word comments to go through, but I really might regret that decision later because, again, I don't know how YouTube works. I don't know if it's going to be my fault for letting those happen. So every time I pause, it's because I'm reading all the comments. I wish I could display them on the side, but I can't because I don't really want to risk doing anything really stupid right now. Hang on, I didn't mute myself. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's massive. This is actually the full tier list with all the levels, but I just dragged all of the co-creation ones to the top because yeah, I don't want to create my own tier list. I'd rather just use the one made by. I should actually give credit to this person. It's probably somewhere there. Thanks for your help, I suppose. MC. I need to think about which fucking level. Oh, Mutation Crisis. I mean, if you think it's better than Lab Confidential, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily spend my time arguing why it's not, but I just don't really agree with that, unfortunately. What up? I'm doing pretty good, actually. A lot of people think that I was, getting depressed and quitting YouTube. I'm really not. I was just doing other stuff other than YouTube. I don't really do Rolling Sky that much anymore. But I figured, might as well just summarize all of my thoughts on the first season of co-creation through this live stream. I did have an old co-creation tier list, but this is probably before musical theater came out, and yeah, so it's really not updated. And again, a lot of my opinions have changed over time, especially with Lab Confidential and Tribal Hunting. Jungle Expedition, my thoughts have changed on it, but I still think it's absolute dog shit. Massive is also co-creation level. We're gonna put that one in S tier. Bouncing City. Yeah, it's going in the masterpiece tier. A lot of people are surprised about this one. A lot of people think I despise Bouncing City. I think Bouncing City is one of my favorite levels of all time. I think it's one of the best co-creation levels of all time. I think that everything down to the textures, the routes, the obstacles, and especially the music is some of my favorite things I've ever seen in the game. It's so well made. I have to give credit to the concept makers where they outlined every single obstacle down to the minute details. They drew fucking like 4 drawings for every single obstacle and how their animations would work. They were very, very clear to the point where, unlike the other levels I just talked about, the modeling team for Minimax couldn't just say, oh, well, they weren't specific enough. Let's just create a fucking 2D picture of the eyeball monster. No, Bouncing City's objects were so well designed, and in my opinion, they're the best objects in co-creation and some of the best object sets in the game. And I do think that despite my personal dislike of Tenable, I think that he used all of these objects perfectly. Every single ID that he was given, he used, aside from the rollers. But again, I also hate those, rollers, so I don't actually blame him for that. I think Bouncing City is a really good goddamn level. Again, the music is really great. It makes me fantasize about Beelzebub from Hell of a Boss because that's exactly what it sounds like. It's so good. I love Night Arc P. It's a shame that he's not coming back, but again, I really did like all 3 of his soundtracks to Rolling Sky. They were masterpieces, and so is this level. Now, I'm not done yet. There's this one part in Bouncing City called 62%, and everything about this theme in particular, the green theme, is so garbage. The way he uses relic portals, the way he uses the castle in the sky blocks, the way he just spams a bunch of falling tiles and laser cannons is one of the worst things I've seen in co-creation, and it's so weird how such a great level just evolves into that. But thankfully, after that theme is over, then it gets back into it, and it even introduces the dynamic cube things, which are used better than in any other level. And again, I just think that Tenable's use of other mechanics, like again, those block seesaws at the beginning, is really clever. He doesn't spam anything aside from jump pads, but again, that's not his fault. That was the fault of the developers for not having a solid concept idea until that very moment. But I do think that the jump pad thing is actually handled really well. Like, it's not that confusing. It just looks really cool. It's one of those levels like Neon where you can play it in front of your non-Rolling Sky friends and say, guys, look, I'm so good at Rolling Sky, and they're like, oh my god, when in reality it's not that complicated, but it just looks like it because a lot of stuff is moving. Harmonic Streets, oh, we'll get to that one. We will get to the Melodic Metropolis stuff fairly shortly. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's all I have to say about Bouncing City. One part of the level is extremely atrocious, but the rest of the level is so good that I still have to put it in masterpiece tier. Even the best levels have their flaws. Speaking of flaws, I mean, like, where else did you expect this fucking level to go? I mean, I'm sorry. It's not infuriating like Jungle Expedition, but I think I'd rather have a level that makes me feel extreme hatred and anger than a level that makes me feel nothing at all. For a level called Lively Spirits, this level is dead to me. This level makes me feel dead inside. I feel absolutely nothing when I play this level. It is so boring and lifeless and meaningless that I can't even bring myself to touch this level. I haven't played this level since it first came out, and it was the first time I played it, and it was the last time I played it. It was so awful. And the reason for this is because the way they use objects, again, it's nothing compared to Bouncing City. The creator RST skipped so many obstacles and he sidelined a lot of them to the point where it's just an empty, bland piece of shit level. Not only that, but he didn't make very good use of mechanics either. He used the quad jump like once, and it was done in a really messy way, the ending of the level is just so convoluted and disgusting. There's so much going on, you can't tell what's happening. It's not fun, unlike Bouncing City where there's a bunch of jump pads. He just spams a bunch of blocks and shit, and it looks just as bad as I'm describing it. Um, and again, the beginning is also extremely boring. I don't blame the router for the song, but the song also sucks fucking ass cheeks. And I think that, again, like I said, despite Bouncing City's one terrible theme, everything else was so good that I had to put it in the masterpiece tier. Despite that Lively Spirits had really good objects and really good themes, it's because of all the other garbage that I think I have to put it in actual dog shit. It's just really bad. I would put it in it's bad if it was just about how I felt about the levels. But this level makes me feel nothing, so it's going in the actual dog shit tier. It is one of the worst levels, I think, in the entire game, actually. I think I'd rather play Tsunami and feel hatred than play this level and feel nothing. Um, y'all need to stop using abbreviations, because I have to go through all of these ones and just think about which one you're talking about. LS Lively Spirits it's mid. Again, I agree that the routes are mid, but the level is so boring that I just have to put it at the absolute bottom. Lively Spirits is an NPC level. The music is made by a pedophile also. So, I mean, again, I said I wouldn't let any personal things get in the way, but that's just kind of weird, so I have to put it in there. And I do know of another level coming out soon in the future that has another song made by this creator. And Minimax, I don't know if you're going to ever hear somebody tell you about this video. You need to change the goddamn song. Nobody knows what it is yet, but you should probably change it before, people start coming out with all those uh, accusations and evidence. So that's a bad look on you. Oh hey, J Caesar. Um uh uh I don't know what Cat's fucking talking about. I'm just like I'm not picking up. I think I'm just mentally behind. Genuinely, Melodic Metropolis. Oh. I don't consider that a leak since obviously you don't actually know which song it is, but yeah, I'm telling Minimax right now they should definitely change the song. I don't care what they change it to. They could change it to something even worse than Lively Spirits, but it's not a good look, dog. Minimax, you gotta change it. And this level is actually pretty far in the future, so it's not like it's too late. I'm pretty sure the router could easily manage if there's even a router selected yet. Yeah, I mean, oh, listen, I don't want to imagine if these allegations turn out to be false, then I mean, I really don't want to get caught in the crossfire, but that's what I've heard, and it seems pretty definitive considering how many people are talking about it, at least in the Chinese community for now. I don't know about the foreign community. Okay, Melodic Metropolis. My delay is so awful. There we go. It's not going in actual dog shit. It's going in the it's bad category. I really, really hate this level, but it's for a bunch of other things that really nobody else cares about. For example, I think that the way he uses movers are disgusting in that he has this one section in the second theme of the level where he places a mover arrow and a auto mover arrow in the same fucking plane, which means that if a mover touches it, it's going to move that plate. But if you don't touch it, then you can also move it with the other arrow. So it's disgusting. It looks terrible. You know exactly which auto mover I'm talking about. It's this weird Frankenstein atrocity of an auto moving thing. And the actual route isn't even good. It doesn't look good. The way they use the gem is so stupid because you can just avoid touching the arrow in the first place. And it's kind of hard to express this over words, which is why I feel like an edited video would be a lot better for something like this. But I just hate the way that CNDY does that. And again, this level just has a bunch of things CNDY does, including that auto mover thing, where he just does a bunch of stupid shit to get attention. And I'm not even like exaggerating when I say that. He adds in a bunch of stupid shit so that his level gets attention. He doesn't care if it's good or bad attention, and that's why I don't really respect CNDY or his level of his quality of route making. Let's go over another thing that I hate about the level in terms of CNDY's choice of routes. It's the Bluetooth movers. I hate Bluetooth movers so much. They're an abomination in Rolling Sky. They completely contradict the fundamental understanding of what movers actually are. Listen, kids, if you have an auto mover that is contacted by a mover or an auto mover, then it moves. That's how it works. It's nothing more complicated than that. If you touch a mover auto, it'll move. But the way CNDY does it is, oh, any mover can just activate any auto mover. It doesn't matter if they're physically contacting or not. It just doesn't fucking matter. You could have like a giant 10-line gap over a void of nothingness, and who knows, maybe whatever mover you touch just happens to activate a mover auto a million lines down the level. It completely just throws that concept up in the air and says, well, just fuck it. Anything can just activate anything if you choose to follow your imagination. And I just hate that. It's only done once in the level, but again, I can't really put this on the level itself, but I will mention it that it caused a giant chain of things to happen where more levels after this started doing the exact same thing. Competition Park did it, where towards the end in the second to last theme, it uses Bluetooth movers. Now it's not as bad because you don't really notice it and it has no effect on the actual level. But then you have levels like Knit Kingdom where they do it again and it looks even worse. Midnight Movement, it does it again. It's disgusting. Enchanted Lamp also does it. It's terrible. And I wouldn't be mad about this as much if it was only restricted to co-creation. But again, like Competition Park and Enchanted Lamp, it leaked into all of the official levels now. And I hate it. It's terrible. I don't know who decided that this was a good idea to carry over, but it completely contradicts any fundamental basic toddler level reasoning of how movers and mover autos work. It is one of the worst things I've ever seen in the level. Not only that, we're not done. No, I don't think you understand. I hate this level beyond anything else, but I haven't even gone to the good stuff yet. Wait, let me just take a break so I can listen to what everyone else is saying. Harmonic Streets was routed by this guy called Cloud Dreams. I've actually talked to him once. He's okay. Bluetooth movers can get very confusing. Glad no one else used them again. You're fucking right, Brooks. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Yeah, look, it is Moonlit Night Movement. Suck my. I just can't. I don't want to pronounce that stupid ass name. I call it Midnight Movement or Moonlight Movement. Whoever made that name is really fucking annoying, and they only did it so that they could confuse people. I'm not done with Melodic Metropolis. I'm sorry. This is why I said this is going to be a long ass stream. We're definitely going to go over 9:30. I'm sorry. But Melodic Metropolis, again, it uses so much garbage. It uses so much shit. It uses the psychedelic blocks. It uses the slashers from City. It uses extending tiles. It uses the 4th anniversary tiles that slide in diagonally. It uses the Sci-Tech lasers. It uses the Tesla towers from City as well. And it uses so much garbage. And it doesn't do anything new or creative with them. It just spams them in the level constantly. The beginning is definitely the worst part as well, where there's no organization whatsoever. He just uses blocks randomly and moving tiles all over the fucking place. And the level textures look beyond any other ugly piece of shit that I've ever seen. I'm sorry for the original creator of this, Sneak22. I think the original concept was fine, but the way the devs translated it into an actual level was definitely one of the worst things I've ever seen. The textures are absolutely disgusting. The AI background is just slop. It is literally slop. It has nothing going for it. It's terrible. And again, the purple black textures, the white orange textures, they just make my eyes want to bleed out into nothing. Mama Cat, I've seen your co-creation bathroom level, and I can actually tell you, I think there's a chance it's gonna get accepted. Not gonna say too much on that, but if I'm gonna talk about it now, and if it does happen to get accepted later, I'm gonna say I think it's a good concept. I sure hope the modeling team doesn't butcher it into oblivion. Hang on. Okay, again, another thing I have to talk about is the rollers in Melodic Metropolis are definitely the worst rollers in the entire game. They just look absolutely garbage. And again, I actually do have to admit, Sneak22, that was a pretty weird looking design, and the devs made it even worse than it really was. And I do respect that you changed the design later. It's a shame that the devs didn't actually follow through with that. But, I would really love to see a revamp of Melodic Metropolis with both the objects and the routes and the textures. And I think RSCE is actually the perfect place to do that. But we'll have to see if Hosni agrees. You want some of Resijo's concepts to be added? I want one of his concepts to be added. I don't want any concept maker to come back more than 2 times, because when they start coming back in again and again, like Dragon Sauce, then you start to get the feeling, I think a little bit of bias is in play. And with Resijer, Minimax really likes him, okay? Like, Minimax loves Resijer. So, if I were to see 3 Resijer concepts come through, then I know exactly what the fuck is going on. And I just really don't, even though bias is definitely a thing that exists in Minimax, I'm not in the mood to see more of it, okay? So 2 concepts is enough. A person routing 2 levels is enough. We don't need to see him 3 times. Music. But it's just not necessary. Residur is... I have a lot of things to say about him, actually. A lot more things than people realize. And I'm actually going to make a video, not about him necessarily, but, I could easily touch on things that he's related to. But let's not get too much into that. Let's read some more comments. What's my favorite level? Probably Castle in the Sky. It's just a classic level. I loved it since the very beginning, and I think there's other levels with better quality routes, but I just think Castle in the Sky is a really great masterpiece level. It's probably my favorite in the game. My second favorite? I don't know. Probably Jade Rabbit. I just think it was a good, it was the perfect return to Rolling Sky. Okay, let's see a word. I always mute myself every now and then so I can see how delayed my stream is. Okay, so it's about like 30 seconds behind, sure. Listen, if you think their concept is shitty, I can assure you that has basically no part in terms of the devs actually accepting you. At least not back then. I feel like their standards are slightly higher now since they have more submissions to choose from. But at the time, like a year ago, the devs would just fucking pick whatever they wanted and they'd accept it regardless of its quality. And I can tell you there's some concepts that are really, really bad that may or may not still be coming to the game. You never know. Anyway, I think we're done ranting about Melodic Metropolis. Harmonic Streets. It's bad. It's better than Melodic Metropolis. It's not that terrible. It's just pretty mediocre and boring. Harmonic Streets is made... The song is composed by A.T. Master, and I don't really like his music. It's kind of goofy, it's kind of boring, and it's kind of self-indulgent, actually. Please welcome A.T. Master! Bro, nobody gives a fuck. Just stop. Just don't do that. It's just really annoying when people self-insert, random shit into the songs that are going into the game. But, it's not really much ranting about that. Again, the textures that I had problems with in Melodic Metropolis still play in Harmonic Streets. I think the name is also weirdly boring. Harmonic Streets is just such a boring-ass name, bro. I don't really know. It's just bad. I don't every time I say Harmonic Streets, I just feel so empty. It's such a weirdly nonsense name. What about the routes? Well, again, actually, it's funny that this happened less than 2 hours ago. I was talking with Walker about one of this levels that he was making, and he used the shifting tiles. Shifting tiles, in my definition, are tiles that move between one space and the space right next to it, and they just bounce back and forth between those 2 spaces regularly. They're introduced in Christmas/Ignite/Neon, and I think that, they're a good addition to the game. I think they're cool. However, there's this glitch that I actually discovered personally and I showcased it in a really old level from 2021 called New Year's Eve. No, not New Year's, New Year's Eve. And in this level, I used a bunch of mechanical exploits that I found in the game, including that shifting tile exploitation. And what I mean by that is, if you place a mover or a mover auto arrow next to a shifting tile, those tiles will then they have the mover border. It's really weird to explain, but essentially it's a glitch. It's a bug where if you put a mover next to a shifting tile, that shifting tile will have an extra mover border texture. And it looks cool, but it just sucks. it just really sucks and it looks so bad. And again, that's what I mean by this level feels so self-indulgent, not just from the music standpoint, but from the routing standpoint. This router does it every single time he has shifting tiles. He's like, guys, look, oh my goodness gracious, I have these cool ass shifting tiles, and he just never stops using them. It's so ugly. I don't know who told him that this was a good idea. Thank you. It's garbage. Now let's get into the other stuff. Again, one of my criticisms of Melodic Metropolis was how it used psychedelic blocks. This level uses them too, and it's just as bad. Now, in terms of the routes, they're not as ugly as Melodic Metropolis. The thing with Melodic Metropolis is it was originally a ridiculously overbearing 6-star, and the developers thankfully came into that and said, no, nerf this piece of garbage. And that's why, you know, when the orange I didn't even talk about the orange filter. The orange filter is absolute garbage. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen in the entire game, and that's what puts it below tribal hunting. When the orange filter shows up, that part feels so empty, right? It's literally just like 3 sets of sci-tech lasers and a bunch of glass. And you might be wondering, why does it look like that? The reason is because that part used to be so ridiculously hard, like Halloween night level cameo theme hard. Everything about that was just spammy, you know, sliding tiles everywhere. You could not see shit, and that's why that part was reduced to something as bland as what we got. It's better than what was originally there, but that's why, because Melodic Metropolis was such a packed mess of a 6-star level. Harmonic Streets, it was always intended to be this difficulty as like a, you know, hard 3, easy 4-star. But it's still bad. It's still boring. A lot of the mover combinations suck, especially with that crown. That was just so weird, the second crown. And then a lot of the block usage, it's just really boring and repetitive. A lot of this level is very repetitive, actually. And there's just a lot of questionable things. Like, you have a very clear direction of where you think the ball should go, and then the character's like, whoop! Oh, you have to go to, like, the complete opposite side of the level for absolutely no reason, and here's the little opening that I showed to you. And it's just like, why would you make that so stupidly annoying and unnecessarily difficult? And that's what pushed this from a 3-star to a 4-star, because you kept doing that. I think I'm done with this level. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Musical theater. You know, I wish I had kept talking about Harmonic Streets, because I really don't want to talk about this level, actually. Um, it's okay. It's not as good as... You know, I'm actually going to put it above Mutation Crisis. Musical theater is a really interesting level to me because it's routed by what, like 8, 9 different people inside professional block. Again, I don't really like professional block, but I can't let my personal opinions get in the way of this. Even so, I think musical theater starts off as one of the biggest pieces of absolute horrendous garbage I've ever seen in the entire game. But by the end, musical theater is actually really good. It's really fun and entertaining by the end. The first theme is just a bunch of bland, empty noise. Whoever routed that part just spammed a bunch of moving, like, up and down tiles, a bunch of those curtain things, and it just looks so ugly. The way they use diagonals is, again, just so awful. Like, I don't know who thought of this. It's just a bland, empty, meaningless piece of mess, and I don't know who approved that, but whichever professional block member routed that, I hope you never route again. The second theme is even worse. The way they use glass is disgusting. The mix between glass and regular tiles is so abhorrent, and it makes my eyes want to bleed out. And then again, they just spam those current things everywhere, and it has no organization whatsoever in a level that feels like it should be organized, because, you know, it's a musical theater. That's what, you know, organization is a key hallmark of musical theater. Then we get to the third theme. It's basically just as bad. The crown is terrible. Everything about the collectibles in all of these 3 themes are just abhorrently garbage. And I really don't know what else to say about this because it's just generic slop. The fourth theme is made by Tenable. I know this because I saw a video on Billy, and it's okay. It's kind of awful, again, because it just spams everything. It spams laser cannons, it spams up and down tiles, and I really don't like how they use the second floor super jump boost things. How you just go to the second floor and then immediately fall back down again. It's just like, what? Like, why would you do that? But I think that it looks fine in hindsight. Now that I've seen Foggy City do it, I think that musical theater did it fine. I don't know what the point of it was, but it's just okay. And I know I make it seem like the level is supposed to get better, but it's pretty shit at the beginning. Then we get to the fifth theme, where they spam the shit out of shifting tiles, and I hate it so much. It looks so, I keep saying it looks so awful and it looks so atrocious, but I really don't know what else to say. It just looks like an absolute garbage fest. It is just a gangbang mess of a level. The way the shifting tiles are just placed onto the edges looks so non-rolling sky, and it looks like a toddler just vomited and diarrheaed all over that theme. Then we get to the sixth theme. The sixth theme is where it goes into the nighttime theme, and it's after the first drop has finished, and that's where the level finally starts to get good. It stops with all of this shifting tile nonsense. It stops with all of the jumping to second floors and back down again. It stops with all of the weird, stupid glass details. It gets focused, and it actually remembers, oh hey, this is a level about musical theater. Let's actually use all of the objects, and this is the only theme in the level that uses the chandeliers. And I think this is definitely the most respectable theme in the level because the creator actually gave a shit about the concept he was routing for. I don't know who it was, but whichever professional block member did this theme, you did a great job. Then we get to the next theme, the seventh theme, where you have the daytime theme again. I'm gonna just call it the daytime theme, even though it's like brown. But again, I don't really like the routes in this part because they're pretty empty and bland, like the first theme. But it's pretty good, and this is why I have to talk about the music. The music is kind of shit in the first half, but in the second half, when they change the keynote, when they actually like change the style of the music to become more menacing and less, happy-go-lucky, that's when the level actually starts to feel really goddamn good and intimidating. It's when the music kicks up and it really says, like, we're not fucking around here. This is a goddamn musical theater level. And again, I really think the routes complement that. The sync is perfect. It is perfect. Then we get to the last two themes. Best part of the level. It's so great. The sync is on point. It just perfectly fits the style of the music. It's organized, but it's also, unpredictable, like a musical theater is, and all of the objects, mostly all of them, are used. And the ending is the best ending out of any co-creation level. The way they use the low camera effect and going through the curtains at the end with all the people, spinning to the sides is the best ending out of any level I've ever seen, hands down. It's no question. It's so great. So after all that, yapping about musical theater, it has really good parts. It has some really terrible parts, so that's why it's going in the okay tier. Now it's time, since I spent, forever talking about that, to read some goddamn comments. Oh, the secret route. Yeah, I haven't talked about that. I do think that was weird, but again, some levels kind of already fucked up that idea with Golden Christmas, so I don't really have a problem with that. I hate how they have 21 gems, but I mean, I can't really do anything about that. It's kind of a self-indulgent thing. Like, hey guys, look, it's a secret collectible. Wow, we're so special. Haha. As you can tell, I don't really like professional block. But again, I'm not really going to say anything about that one collectible. I think it's fine. I actually do kind of like the setup, how they use those moving, the tiles that move from the first floor to the second floor. They use them throughout the entire level. So I do think it's actually kind of a good idea to then make those tiles get incorporated into the secret route. I think that's kind of clever. But at the same time, I hate how it's executed for the most part. Midnight Movement. Oh, right. Um, it's going in the bad tier. I'm sorry. A lot of people love this level. I don't really like it. It's so self-indulgent. When I talk about self-indulgence, I really mean that shit. Midnight Movement, well, my motherfucker, whatever, is just, it's so annoying how much the creator just says, oh my god, guys, look, oh, it's a good concept. Look, I'm such a cool router. Look at me, I'm so special. And that cannot be better represented than the way he spams theme changes at the end. That was totally undeserved. Neon did it, and no other level deserves to do that. The reason is because no other level has the feeling of flashing neon lights, and that's what the theme changes in Neon were supposed to represent. Any other level that does that has no fucking idea what it's doing, and it's just doing it for the sake of attention. It doesn't care if it's quality, it doesn't care if it's earned, and that's why I hate Midnight Movement for doing that. It's so self-indulgent and it's so uncreative. You don't need any creative to do that. All you have to do is just put in a theme change. Oh my god, it's so cool. No, it's not. It's really stupid. I hated that part. Not only that, but this level just has nothing. It has nothing original going for it. It just copies a bunch of things that musical theater does, and I believe that was definitely intentional. Again, it uses the same thing that Tenable did, where it just goes to the second floor and then immediately drops back down. It has the shifting tile spamming. It has really terrible glass detail at some points, and I hate the beginning. The beginning is so messy. He just spams rollers everywhere. It doesn't feel like a musical theater. It just feels like a piece of garbage, and I just hate it. Again, the one thing good going for it is the music. The music is really, really good. The music is probably one of my favorite soundtracks of all time in the Rolling Sky game because it's so energetic, it's so stylish. It feels like a fucking like a cinematic song. It's just that good. And it kind of gets worse towards the end because it just repeats the same drop that it had in the middle of the level. But I don't really have a problem with that. I still think that the song overall is just really, really good. And it's unfortunate that it was paired with such a shitty router, but I don't really have much to say about that. I think the router did a good job with the first drop, though. I think that the way he used the marshmallow alone block seesaw things where they rotate left or right to jump the ball. That's pretty cool. I mean, I like the way he sings with that. It's pretty creative, but he does use shifting tiles again, which is terrible. The last thing I will say about Midnight Movement that really solidifies into the bad tier, maybe even under Harmonic Streets actually, is the fact that it uses Bluetooth movers in the worst way possible. I talk about how much I hated Bluetooth movers in Melodic Metropolis and the other levels. This is the level in the game that perfectly encapsulates why Bluetooth movers are an issue. Because two of the crowns, and there's other parts in the level that do this too, involve Bluetooth movers where you have to touch a mover arrow to activate a set of mover autos way down the level when there's no indication that they're connected whatsoever. And the problem with this one, unlike all the other levels, is that if you don't activate that mover auto sequence, you're not going to get the crown. So it's basically saying, it's giving you the middle finger by telling you that you just have to magically know which arrows to touch. Because if you don't touch the right arrow, you're not going to randomly activate the mover sequence 10 lines down that's not visually connected whatsoever. And that's what I hate about the use of Bluetooth movers, is that there's no indication. The player doesn't learn anything from that. The player doesn't say, oh, wow, yeah, I understand now. They're connected. All I have to do is just use my brain. No, you can't do that now because the player just has to randomly guess which mover arrows to touch to get which crown they want to. It's so stupid. And again, it's just a result of the router having no original thought whatsoever. He just copies what other levels do, and he tries to be so self-indulgent by saying he's so special when in reality his level is a piece of garbage. Ah, okay. I'm done with that one. I know it sounds like I really hate co-creation, and I do hate co-creation, but there's some levels that are still really good that I haven't talked about yet. I don't know what's going on, chat. I'm just gonna, pretend that nothing's going on. Oh, hey, Frogby. Oh, Lord, you're gonna love my thoughts on Parade. Hang on. Okay. So that was me drinking some water, not glazing on anything. The British... What the fuck am I reading? Why is chat the way it is? This is why I don't want to become a streamer. I can't imagine how ridiculous chat would be. There's this one streamer I used to watch. I mean, I actually still watch him. He's funny as shit. He's called Astral Spiff. And essentially, we were watching a Five Nights at Freddy's Ruined Security Breach live stream. And because he couldn't get Twitch to work, he streamed his thing on Zoom and YouTube at the same time, but you could also watch it on Zoom chat. And the problem with Zoom chat is you can put images in there and there's no restrictions whatsoever. So basically the entire stream was filled with a bunch of Roxanne Wolf porn, and that was awful. And I may or may not have been a contributor to that, but he had ended up having to completely shut off the Zoom stream, and I can't imagine myself having to deal with that. And the amount of strikes he got on YouTube would probably suck as well, especially since that would be your career. Oh, no. Games Legend. Yeah, I will talk about Beach Party Rock. It is technically part of Season 1, since it's not part of Season 2, and it's an extra added in at the last second. But I will talk about it. That's actually the last Season 1 level. And I did see a comment at the very beginning saying that Disco Tempo is not the main level. I mean, sure, I'm not going to say 100%. That it's the main or that's the bonus. However, I'm just going off of what I see in the game, where Disco Tempo is placed before Beach Party Rock, which applies to literally every single other main level that currently exists. So that's why I'm going to put Disco Tempo as the main for now. And I mean, I don't mean to be this guy, but it also came first. But I could literally make an entire video dedicated to which level I think is the main and why. But You say participate in what now? Okay, well, season 1 is just the first set of levels that are selected slash voted in. So the first levels initially were Lab Confidential, Jungle, Nuclear Energy, Observatory, and what was the last one? Bouncing City. What at the time it was called Beat City. And those are the original 6, and then they added in Melodic Metropolis, then Musical Theater, then Knit Kingdom, and then Beach Party Rock. So the devs initially have a solid set of levels they want to add in, and then later on they randomly decide, okay, let's add in these levels. Just, fuck it, why not? Sometimes it's out of bias, but sometimes it's because they want to cater to the foreigners, like Sneak 22 with Moloch Metropolis. But again, that's why I don't think they're actually genuine with that, because it's no wonder why they rushed that level so horribly as they did. Mama Cat, this is exactly why I didn't want to make you a mod, because you're going to say some atrocious shit, especially if I added you onto a Discord call, and I know you wouldn't even use your voice. I like to think of Disco Tempo as the main since it came first. Yeah, it's a fair point. I don't really know what to say about that. Damn, I'm surprised there's just 30 people watching. God damn. Listen, I want to do a little disclaimer for Frogby and PB Brazil in case they decide to stick around to hear my thoughts on their levels. I have good and bad things to say about basically every single level, aside from Jungle Expedition and Lively Spirits. But your levels are definitely not going there. That's just a thing I'm going to guarantee right from the start. But also, yeah, I'm just going to be totally honest. This has nothing to do with my personal views on anyone. So if I hate a person, it has nothing to do with my view. If I like a person, it has nothing to do with my view on the quality of the level that I believe is what's right to designate it to. That sounded really nerdy. That sounded really stupid. Let's move on. Observatory. It is a masterfully okay level. It's better than music. Actually, no, it's worse than musical theater. I take that back. This level is really overrated. I feel like when I criticize this level, it would be like as if, I don't know if you actually watch any American films, but Steven Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, they're really respected filmmakers, right? Every single time they make a movie, it's, oh my god, it's made by Steven Spielberg, it's made by Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer. It's a really respected film. And that's how I feel like when I go after FO18 when I criticize his levels. It feels like I'm criticizing someone who's so popular and whose levels are just unanimously agreed to be great. I think that FO18 is a really talented router, but I think that Observatory is a really shit representation of his true potential when it comes to route making. I don't really appreciate that he made the level into a 3-star. I get it that a lot of the levels were 5 stars and 4 stars, and it was a nice, fresh start to have an easier main level. But I don't like it. I just don't like how boring and bland the level is. It's so basic and it's so meaningless. There's nothing new ever done. He uses the New Year tiles, but they're just used on the side. They're not used in any creative ways whatsoever, unlike how New Year does it. And I don't like how the flip tiles are used. I hate how the level is so open and like slow. And I mean, I do think that it's, immersive, so to speak, even though it's just an abstract level, unlike Jungle Expedition. But I just don't really like how he does it. There's another thing I want to talk about, which is slightly out of his control, but it's also kind of his fault as well. Where the level has this thing where the devs did, where you know how there's like nighttime and daytime obstacles? They're actually the same ID, so you place the same thing, but depending on which theme it is, it'll just spawn the nighttime or the daytime version of the obstacle there, which means that you can't use the nighttime obstacles in the daytime theme, and you can't use the daytime obstacles in the nighttime theme, unless you take advantage of the theme delay. What theme delay is it takes like 20 to 30 lines for the object to change based on what the theme is. And the issue with that is if you change the theme and then use an object, it'll place the nighttime version in the daytime theme, or the other way around. And FO18 falls for this bug. It's really unfortunate because the nighttime and daytime aspect of the level should be really consistent, and F118 basically failed in that, which is a shame. Also, those spotlight obstacles are atrocious. I don't blame FO18 for using them. He tried to avoid using them, but the developers forced him to. Personally, if I was the developers, I would have said, you know what? Don't use those things at all. We'll just move those obstacles to Happy, because Happy fits those just fine, considering how atrocious all the other obstacles are. But that's a topic for another day. This is one thing I need to talk about Observatory that makes it so bad. Oh, okay. See ya, Mama Cat. This is one last thing I need to talk about related to Observatory. It's the third crown. The third crown is just it's. I mean, listen. This is something that literally nobody else has talked about, and I perfectly understand because it seems like a small nitpick, but it's really not. It's a big issue that this level introduces that makes it so much worse than it could have been. The third crown is single-handedly the worst collectible in the game. It is 100%. I'm not even stuttering when I say that it is the worst collectible ever put into the goddamn game. Hang on while I mute myself so I can see how far behind the stream is again. Okay, it seems pretty caught up to date. Now, wait, is that Star Coral? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Chat just seems pretty nonsensical. Okay, yeah, we're just gonna move on. Crescent Moonbeam. What the fuck? Oh, right, that's because I was clicking the wrong screen. Crescent Moonbeam is a good ass level. I have a lot of things to say about TCT and what he does outside of making this level, but I think that Crescent Moonbeam is a really good level. A lot of the issues that I talked about in Observatory are completely fixed in this level. You know, do you want me to talk about the third crown? Like, say yes or no in chat. I mean, like, I'll talk about Observatory's third crown and why I think it's the worst collectible in the game. But until then, I'm just going to talk about Crescent Moonbeam. Every issue that I talked about in Observatory is practically fixed. The issue of theme delay, where a nighttime obstacle is used in the daytime theme, or vice versa, that does not exist in Crescent Moonbeam. TCT made sure that the consistency was 100% solid the entire way through. The third crown, every single collectible in Crescent Moonbeam, is really well designed. Everything I said about Observatory being bland and empty is completely fixed in Crescent Moonbeam. The glass detail in Crescent Moonbeam is so perfect, and a lot of the sync is, I don't know how, but TCT managed to perfectly sync a 3-star. It's not a 2-star. The official ratings average is a 3-star. The developers made a 2-star because they're really fucking stupid. But Crescent Moonbeam perfectly syncs with its music. And I think it's unfortunate because not many people like this soundtrack, and that's what makes the level really, nobody really cares about it because it's kind of a boring level with the soundtrack it was given. And that really sucks because Crescent Moonbeam is a really well designed level. I have to give TCT credit. There's practically nothing bad I can say about it. The only thing bad I can say is that, again, due to TCT's uncontrolled, issues, is that the song is kind of boring and it just doesn't make the level as interesting as it could have been. It's not as interesting as Lab Confidential. It's not a masterpiece like Bouncing City. It's just a solid, good ass level. Now, hang on. Okay, I saw someone say that Crescent Moonbeam is an improved version of Virtual Network, and I don't mind saying this since I know that other people close to TCT have directly said this to his face. Virtual Network is an absolute atrocity. It's one of the worst levels I've seen, ever, and it's so terrible. And it's kind of hypocritical for me to say that since I was literally the one who built the last 15% of the entire original level, which they, coincidentally deleted because they didn't want to credit me for that. But that's a topic for another day. But I really don't like Virtual Network. It's a complete mess of a level. It is so packed, you can't tell what the shit is going on. The textures look terrible. Everything about the level is boring and unoriginal. The song sucks ass cheeks. It is, yeah, okay. We're not doing fanmates, we're doing co-creation. But Crescent Moonbeam is, in fact, a natural improvement over every single issue I had with both Observatory and Virtual Network. It's a great level. Good job, TCT. I wish he had a better song, though. Yeah, I'm surprised it appeared there. I mean, actually, no, I'm not surprised it appeared there because, FO118 specifically made it happen. But, I'm surprised the devs actually accepted it, is what I would say. If it's terrible, why did I contribute so much to it? I mean, that's not really a fair thing for me to say because I contributed to the last 15%. I had no control over any of the rest of the level, and I would still contribute to a level even if I thought it was bad, because I would just make an attempt to make it better. But I'm not going to shy away from the fact that my routes were pretty garbage, so even the last 15% was pretty bad as well. And so I'm not going to like pretend that, oh, I could have saved the level. No, I couldn't. It was doomed from the start. It was a pretty bad level, just like Abyss. Just it did not need to be in the game. It was one of the worst levels TCT has ever made, and I don't know why he chose that level to be featured over the other options he had. Moving on, Knit Kingdom. Come on, there we go. Nice, good Kingdom. It's not as good as Lab Confidential, it's better than Crescent Moonbeam. It's a solid, good-ass level. A lot of people hate it because of the difficulty imbalance. I don't necessarily have a problem with difficulty imbalance as long as it starts out easy and gradually gets harder. This isn't a case of Jungle Expedition where it jumps from a 3-star to a hard 5-star in the matter of seconds. It's a case where it starts off 3-star, maybe even 2-star, and then it gradually gets harder. It never, like, has an inconsistency in the difficulty progression. That's why I actually don't have a problem with it. Secondly, I do like the routes. I think the routes are actually really good. The beginning is great. The second theme is great because the Winter Dongsheng, I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but Winter's use of the new tiles, they're not really new because they've existed since before New Year, but he was the first person to introduce them. The way he uses those tiles is perfect. It's such a great way to use them, and it's such a great way to introduce them to the rest of the player base, and it's handled really well. That's like the one, new aspect of a co-creation level I really have to respect. And again, the third theme, the second time the green theme pops up, where it just becomes nothing but a bunch of appearing moving tiles where it literally forms the entire route in front of your eyes. I think that is such a well-designed level. It looks so good in that section specifically. Now, the one criticism I have of the level is that in the harder sections where the difficulty ramps up, it becomes a tiny bit unsight readable, and you start getting to the point where it doesn't really sync with the music as well. I think that the third theme of the level, where it has all of those appearing tiles, that's where the level peaks. That's where the level is really good. It's like hard 4-star, easy 5-star, and it's just really enjoyable. And again, it does have Bluetooth movers, but I don't really have a problem with that one in this case, since they don't really, it's not a case of musical theater or Moonlight Night Movement where it's, oh, you can either activate them or you can't activate them. Like, no, this is, you're forced to activate them. So it's really not that big of an issue, since you don't have to choose between something that you have no idea about. And then, of course, Knit Kingdom has a bunch of issues related to diagonals. It spams diagonals in some places, and it does kind of fuck with the difficulty sometimes, but I still think it's a pretty solid level. It's not a masterpiece. It's not as good as Lab Confidential. Nothing more to say about that. Okay. Y'all ready for me to talk about Sewing Factory? It's going to be a fun ride. Before I do that, let me just read some more stuff. When Battle Bastion was just, I don't know what the creative team was thinking about when they talked about Battle Bastion. I don't know why they introduced it so early. They were just like teasing I don't know, the new playlist that they had. That was such a stupid decision from a company standpoint and just from, a general audience standpoint. I don't know why they did that, because now everyone is incessantly asking where this fucking level is. And the truth is, it was always planned to come out this late. It's not coming out until, the next update or the update after that, because that's how their system works. They don't create bonuses for the levels until 3 updates after. So I really don't know what the developers were thinking when they teased Battle Bastion so early, because now everyone is asking about it, and I mean, it's not coming. It's not coming as fast as you think. Okay, and I don't really know what the hype about that level is. I mean, the song is fine, but I don't know why people are dying to have it happen, and it's going to be a shame if the route turns out to be bad, and everyone gets disappointed over it. I should talk about the crowns. I do talk about the crowns. Oh, you mean in Knit Kingdom? Yeah, they're not bad. I think that they're designed in a really interesting way where you can't tell how to actually get them. It's almost like the route for the crowns blends in perfectly with the rest of the level. So it's actually kind of like a puzzle, at least for the first 2. The last crown is kind of like, it's just weird. I don't know why the last crown exists, but yeah, I think that they're okay. I do like Knit Kingdom a lot. Yeah, Winter is definitely better than Keat or whatever the fuck that name is. And Winter Dongcheng also did Cave. He actually optimized the level before it came out officially in the game, so he routed recently. So I don't really, I've been stalling for too much. It's it's way past. It's been an hour, but I think it's time to talk about my favorite level in the goddamn game. I think Sewing Factory is simply one of the best levels of all time. I think that the route quality is really it's better than Lively Spirits, and it's like really it's. Yeah, I've changed my mind. I used to think it was a masterpiece, but in the last few seconds I've realized how terrible of a level it is. It is a fundamental bastardization of every single thing about rolling sky route making in the entire game. It is quite literally made worse than a toddler. A toddler could make a better level. I'm not joking when I say that me, a mediocre ass router, could just spam tiles in a level, just make a random, long trail of emptiness, and then just add objects in random places where I felt like it, add jump pads in random places where I felt like it, and then that would literally just be Sewing Factory. The level is just a long trail of a bunch of tiles with no glass detail where objects are just randomly littered all over the place. There is no sense of meaning or understanding or fun in this level. It is a complete snooze fest. It is so horribly made. The use of blocks is terrible. The use of objects is terrible. This level forgets about so many objects that were used in Nick Kingdom. It doesn't use the new introduced tiles that move left to right. It doesn't use the rulers. It doesn't use the triangle rulers. It doesn't use the measuring tapes. It doesn't use the scissors. And it makes me wonder, like, who the fuck approved this piece of garbage? Oh right, it's because Res128 is a friend of the developers. He barely plays Rolling Sky and he doesn't know how to route a fucking level. And the developers threw him in because he's a close friend of the developers and nothing else. I also am aware that he's a friend of Winter Dongcheng, the guy who made Nick Kingdom, so it only makes sense that Winter Dongcheng probably had an influence in adding this fucking kid into co-creation. This is it's probably the worst level I've ever seen, actually. It's worse than Lively Spirits. I'm sorry. It is worse than Lively Spirits. I did say earlier that because Lively Spirits makes me feel nothing, it's worse than a level that makes me hate something. But this level makes me hate so much that it just has to go below Lively Spirits. It is a atrocity of a level. Again, I hate how it starts and ends on the same theme as Nick Kingdom. I thought it was okay in Spectre Remix. This level doesn't earn it though, because this level has nothing special about it whatsoever. The routes are just so bland and empty, and I could make a better level without I could open the editor APK right now. I could build a level and I would not have to tweak it. I could build it in an hour or two and it would be better than Sewing Factory. It is just, I don't know how this level was made. I don't know who approved this level. I don't know how this router got in. And I wish this level was completely eradicated from the face of the earth. Okay, now we're getting into the spicy territory. These 4 levels are really spicy. I say that because I have had a lot of stuff going on both inside and outside of these levels, and there's just, yeah, it's really controversial, like on a personal level. Yeah, listen. I understand if Res128 hasn't made levels for a long time. Maybe it was a good idea to not fucking bring him back. I mean, again, it's cool to have a massive return. Oh my god, they're finally back. Sometimes that's not a good idea. Take the official routers, for example. The people who routed Poker and Cube and Reggae. Those people came back to facilitate the tweaks on all of those levels, and those tweaks were absolute fucking garbage. So sometimes it's not always a good thing to add back veteran routers because they easily lose touch with what the quality of a route should be. Damn, 42 people is ridiculous. Oh, okay. I hope you're not losing interest because I'm going to talk a lot about these last remaining levels. Let me just read some of the comments, see how far behind my stream is. Okay, yeah, wow, that's actually pretty close behind. Yeah, I hate Sewing Factory. It's disgusting. It's an atrocity of a level. I hope the router never comes back. And if that level was eradicated from the game, I would not complain whatsoever. Mhm. Oh, is that what his name is? Cookie? The guy who made Industrial Era? I think that's, yeah, fine. I'll just call it Cook. I'll call him Cookie. The recent main levels are kind of goated. Wild West is my favorite Minimax level of all time, actually. I think every single thing about it is just perfect. 10, 11 out of 10 level. Perfection. Everything about Wild West is amazing. Westlands, I don't, same thing. It's great. It's better than Jade Rabbit. It's better than a lot of Cheetah Mobile levels. But, I'll make a video on that later if I have the motivation. What's my opinion on the Song of Wild West? I mean, wait a minute. Which level, though? Okay, you know what, Brooks Gamer? Like, you're really baiting me into making a joke about that. Like, out of all the things you could have said for why you're leaving, you just had been to say, "Oh, I gotta eat, bro." Like, really? You fucking kidding me? You get off this fucking stream. Go eat your food. Hey, how do you make a good mover chain? Uh, I mean, like, I could probably make a video on that, but as far as I can say in terms of just words and not actually showing anything on the screen, don't do what Melodic Metropolis does, and then you're good to go. But I could definitely talk about it a lot more. Hang on. Okay, you know what? I think we can be done ranting about other levels and finally stop stalling and get to the meat of co-creation season 1. Nuclear energy is it's right about here. This a lot of the levels that I put in the OK tier are it has some great things and it has some bad things. For this level, it's just mediocre solidly all the way through. Listen, I used to be the biggest fan of Junipi when about 2 years ago, 3 years ago in 2021, and he routed Opio with me. He routed Satellite Rush with me, and I thought his routes were absolutely amazing, and he was my favorite creator of all time. Looking back on it, I'm not going to say that he was bad the entire time, but I do think that the style of his routes has become somewhat outdated, just like mine. Unless, of course, my routes were always terrible. But I like to think that my routes used to be good, and now they kind of suck because the general opinion of what makes a good and bad route have changed over time. And I do think that Junipi's style of routing is very outdated, and that his routing style just doesn't look good anymore. I don't think that the way he uses nuclear energy objects is the correct way to do it at all. Like I said, in terms of immersion, like the jungle level, what Ponydom does is he takes objects and a theme that should be, randomly organized like a jungle is, like randomly dispersed, and that he tries to organize them in ways that don't make sense. Junipi is the opposite. Nuclear energy is a concept which should be very organized. It is a power plant. Obviously, if someone designed it, it would be uniform, it would be organized, it would be solid and clear. But the way Junipi uses all of the objects is he uses them in the way that Jungle Expedition should have used them. He makes it so random and dispersed, glass designs and sliding tiles. It's such a random looking level. It's such a messy level, and I don't have a problem with messy levels necessarily, but the fact that Junipi does it with this concept makes it not very good. I just think that it doesn't fit the atmosphere of the level at all. And in terms of the actual route quality, I don't like it either. I don't like the way Junipi just randomly uses sliding tiles everywhere. I don't like how he glass details. And again, there's this thing that Junipi does where he uses falling jump pads, and the way he uses them is just really annoying. It's just not interesting in the way New Year does it. It's just to trick you, and it's not fun. I don't really know, like, this is why I have a hard time talking about these levels because there's really no specific examples I can bring up. I do understand that nuclear energy does also spam the theme changes, and I don't really think it deserves it, but it's not as problematic as Moonlight Movement. But I don't really like how it spams the theme changes. It always feels like a self-indulgent thing. It requires no creativity whatsoever. It's just a thing people do to get more attention. And it's pretty obvious that TCT had a hand in making this level. Like, I mean, obviously Junipi was sending TCT demos of the level, even though it's against the rules. But I'm pretty sure Minimax doesn't care. But it's really obvious that a lot of TCT's old style, especially his 2021 and 2022 style, was really seeping into this level, and I don't really like it. I don't like it when TCT and Junipi try to combine their styles. I've seen it done in other levels before, and I just don't like the end result because it feels so disheveled. It feels like a level that just it's too random for the design that it should be, and I don't like the way a lot of the objects are handled in this level. Now let's talk about the things Junipi can't control. The object designs. I thought the original concept was absolute dog shit. I don't know how it got in. I don't know how it got accepted into the game, but it's obvious that it was pretty dog shit because the developers just changed everything. Every single obstacle is different than what it looked like in the original concept because the developers knew that the original design was so abhorrently shit. And the new designs are better, but they're not that much better. The color design is so flat and boring. It's just green, red, and black, and a bit of gray in some places. But it's just so void and annoying. Um, Research says that if you dream someone you personally know that is trying to chase you down. What the fuck are you talking about? Well, I had my ex try and chase me down once, and that wasn't. I don't think that applies in this case. But let's not get into that. Uh, Junipi sold nuclear energy. I don't like nuclear energy. I'm sorry. I don't like it. Biology lab. I keep clicking the screen because I think that it's the thing, but I'm actually clicking the recording on OBS Studio. But biology lab. Can I move the level, please? It's really slow and laggy. Okay, yeah, there you go, there you go. I'm gonna put biology lab up here. I think it's better than nuclear energy, but it's not that much better. It has more of a unique style than Junipi's. It's more organized, like a high-tech nuclear facility level should be, and I do think that it's less convoluted. The glass detail is better. The way he uses sliders are better. He doesn't use falling jump pads in any kind of deceptive way whatsoever. He doesn't spam theme changes in an annoying way, and I just think that's handled relatively well. I think that the music is better. It's a hot take. I think that Noise Nitrogen did a much better job than TDX in Nuclear Energy, and it's mainly because TDX changed the song, and I think the original song for Nuclear Energy was way better, but that has nothing to do with the final product of Nuclear itself. Yeah, I feel like this is an appropriate time to talk about the ball colors. The ball color is just this is where they start to become really stupid because the default ball color, as you could probably guess, is yellow. Unless the router asks, "Hey, can we not make it that?" Then developers are like, "Sure, here's a white cum colored ball. Here's a blue ball." And then in later levels, you'll see like some weird variations of pink and purple, as I've heard. But like the main line is if the router doesn't actually specify, then they'll just put your yellow as the ball color, and it just becomes so bothersome after a while because every single theme has a yellow ball, and you just have to ask why the fuck are why like why. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about biology lab. It also uses the rollers, which nuclear energy failed to remember that those rollers existed. But I mean, Biohazard is just a really solid level. It's not as good as Crescent Moonbeam, but it's up there. It's pretty good. Oh, oh, these are the two levels that I wanted to talk about the least. I don't know if Rugby and PB Brazil are still here. I mean, doesn't really matter, but still. Hang on. Okay, wait a minute. That's actually kind of annoying. Okay. Um, Never noticed that majority of co-creations has a yellow ball. Well, you're fucking welcome, because now you'll never be able to unsee it. Unless the writer specifically asks to have a unique ball color, they will always be yellow, and I hate that to death. Okay. Again, I don't know if PB Brazil or Frogby are here, but it's time to talk about parade pageantry. Oh God. Oh, here you are, Frogby. Okay. 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 Here's the thing. before I do that, I need to actually like check something. I need to check some things. It'll take me like maybe a minute. Don't get too bored. Just like start just having conversations in the chat while I look for it. It honestly has nothing to do with the stream, but I need to pull it up anyway. Okay. Here's the thing. It's not even a secret that I have early access to Minimax levels. I don't think Minimax intended for me to have early access, but I do. And they're trying to track down where where I'm getting these off of QQ, but they're not going to. And the bottom line is I can basically see the early, release of every single level that I want to. And because of that, I was able to see Parade Pageantry earlier than anyone else. And as soon as I finished watching it, I went to Frogby and I said, "This is one of the best levels I've ever seen. It's really great." And I feel bad for saying that because as the more I played the level, the less I started to openly praise it. And the reason is because it's a well-made level. I mean, it has it's obvious that Frogby really cared about this level and he put the best effort he could into it. But there's a lot of flaws with the level that I just cannot really ignore. It's just again the yellow ball. It's a thing that I see once that I can never unsee ever again, and I think because of that, I have to put. I feel bad for putting it in bad, so for now I'm gonna put it here. It's okay. It's not as good as any of the other okay levels, but it is okay, and there's a lot of reasons for this. The first reason is because of the object usage. Again, I think it's kind of unfair for the developers to give one level like 8 objects, like this, future co-creation level that's about to come out next update. Actually, wait, no, I'm pretty sure they got pushed back. I should probably stop hinting at things that may or may not happen in the next update. But there's a level that's coming in the future, and it has like 8 objects, right? And then Frogby has a level that has like fucking 28 objects, and again, it's kind of unfair for the developers to do that, but at the same time, you really can't say, "Oh, I couldn't balance the objects properly because they gave me too many of them." Really, all you had to do was take all those hats that you spammed and then place other objects there. And again, the devs made Frogby use every single objects at least once, but because of that, there's like 8 or 9 objects that are only used one single time. The wardrobes, the banner, the street lamps, the ones with the flowers on them. All these really nicely made objects, even the boats, were only used one single time each. And that's kind of frustrating to me because they're really well made. This is a high quality set of objects, and they were squandered, to be honest. Like they were not used at all. There's this one object which is like a street lamp, and it's used one time and it's put in such a place where 99% of players don't even know that it fucking exists. Like that's how unnoticeable some of these objects are. And yeah, okay, so that's the one problem I have about the object balance. The second problem I have is actually something that is completely out of Frogby's control, which is the textures. The textures are not very good, because the daytime theme it hurts my eyes so much. It is so awfully bright, and a lot of people, including TCT, which again I know saw an early demo of this level because that's why he's defending it so much, he constantly says, "Oh well, the original textures used to be so awful." Like, come on, Hugo, you can't call these ones bad. The original textures were even worse, so therefore that just magically makes the level better. No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. Just because anything used to be bad before doesn't mean you can suddenly say the final product is better than it actually is. I have seen the original textures, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I think the original textures were actually better. But let's assume that the original textures were the worst thing that ever happened to the game, and that they were changed to what we have now. That still doesn't change the fact that the main theme of Parade Pageantry is really bad. The textures are so ugly. It has baby colors everywhere. It's so desaturated compared to the original theme, and it's so bright for the eyes. Not only that, but when you switch from the nighttime theme to the daytime theme, it is really apparent how blinding this theme is. You can't see shit. And there's actually a third theme in the original concept, which is like a sunset orange type theme. That would have been a really good way to transition from the nighttime to the daytime theme. But of course, like all the other cool ideas, the devs just scrapped that entirely, just like the gem from Lab Confidential. Yeah, exactly. Playing Parade Pageantry at night is like turning on Discord light mode. It's so blinding and unappealing to the eyes. I'm not done talking about Parade Pageantry. If I haven't even, I've literally not talked about the routes yet. Listen, Fogby, if you're still watching this, I mean, like, I really am trying to say this in the nicest way possible, but the routes are kind of forgettable. They're high quality. I mean, they're definitely better than some other levels here in this list I can mention. They're better than musical theater. They're probably better than biology lab, but they're just not. They're so forgettable because there's nothing really unique done with them. Everything about the routes is just very repetitive of everything else that's come before. For example, all of the collectibles are literally nothing than just you take a jump pad, you go off to the side, jump around a tall obstacle, there you got the collectible. The crowns are all symmetrical. They're just, oh, you got to touch another jump pad, go around a tall obstacle, there you got the crown. They're just so repetitive in the way that they're made, and then when you ignore all of the collectibles, which are repetitive, then the general routes are also kind of repetitive as well. It's just a bunch of rollers used like every 2 or 3 seconds. You have like a set of 3 lines of sliding tiles going in one direction. You have a bunch of hats used, the masks. I actually like how Frogby restricted the hats to one theme and the masks to the other theme. However, I think he used a lot of obstacles way fucking more than he should have, especially that one tall, striped pole obstacle. I don't know why he used that one so much, but there's just a lot of potential with this level. It should be a parade level. It should be fun, energetic, fast, and entertaining, and packed with stuff. But this level doesn't feel like a parade level. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like a normal Monday in Italy. It doesn't feel like anything special whatsoever. It just really kind of drops the ball in terms of, and it's not really Fogby's fault because, again, the original objects were better than the ones we have now because the original objects were actually about a parade. The new objects are not about a parade. They're just fucking like random ass Italy objects. I don't even know what to say about that. And the only thing about this that conveys the idea of a parade is literally just the fireworks. And again, I will give credit to Frog B for adding that, because that is the only aspect of parade that feels like a parade. Everything else, it does not look like a parade. It just looks like a bunch of random ass stone objects. It's really, I don't know who the fuck redesigned the concept, but it was a bad idea. And again, I just think the routes are repetitive. The objects kind of suck. Because here's the thing. I'm gonna put this in bad, not for the routes, but for the textures and for the objects used. So this isn't necessarily Frogby's fault that it's bad, but I'm gonna put it in bad tier just to justify that because there's a lot of issues about this level that are out of Frogby's control that bring it down one more tier. And with all that said, I think that's really all the criticism I have about that. I could go into nitpicks about how I don't think Frogby used the falling jump pads really well. The falling jump pads are just so useless. They don't serve any purpose. They don't have any kind of influence whatsoever. You could completely remove them and it wouldn't change anything. So, but those are just tiny nitpicks. And again, I do think that the second crown is really annoying actually because the super jumps are hidden behind those pillar obstacles, so you can't see them. And even though I've played the level so many times, I just keep forgetting that they're there, and it just becomes annoying. It's not fun. And I know that Crisscross does the same thing. I don't like it when they do that either. So it's not like a double standard kind of thing. Parade, I mean, it's kind of enjoyable, but it's a meh level. It's just I don't hate it, and I don't get the same sense of energy that I do in Knit Kingdom or Lab Confidential or Crescent Moonbeam even, or even Biology Lab. It's just level. It could have been so much more, and I feel like that's something I really have to finalize on. Masked Ball. Okay, I think everything I said about the textures and the objects it applies to this level in basically every single other way. However, I think that Masked Ball is slightly better because it has a better use of obstacles. The obstacles are all used at least more than once. They put a lot of the obstacles that were marginalized in the first level into a place where the player can actually see them. And I think that a lot of the obstacles that were used that the first level used only one single time were used multiple times and in very interesting, good ways. I think that the crowns are slightly more original and fresh, and that applies to all the other collectibles as well. It's more than just jumping to the side, going around a tall obstacle. Whoopie doo, you got the obstacle. And it's a lot less symmetrical, which I like. It feels a lot more like a parade should feel. And I I also have to give it to this level because it has a really good song. I don't think that the difficulty fits the song any better than Parade does, but I do think it has a really good song. I think Parade Pageantry has a great song as well, but because of all the other things I talked about, I have to put it in the it's not very good tier. And I guess anything about what other reasons that I like Masked Ball slightly more than Parade, but I really can't think of any that I can express on this stream unless I were to actually go into the level and showcase really specific parts of the routes that I really appreciate. But I just have to say that Masked Ball feels slightly more immersive in a Parade sense. It feels more random, it feels less organized, it feels more energetic, and even though it's easier and slower, and I think that's the last thing I'm going to say about this level. Because the music, yeah, I mean, fine. I do think that the music is really good, but the music did deserve a harder level, and so did Parade's. Parade should have been a 5-star, 100%. It could have been a hard 4-star, I guess, but the music was so fast and energetic and paced that it just had to be a hard level. The easy difficulty just doesn't work. Again, it's not Frogbee's fault. The developers strongly suggested to make it into a 3-star, but they really didn't. They said make it 4-star or less. So I still think that you kind of can't blame the devs fully for that, and that's why I don't really like Parade Pageantry as a whole. Okay, those two were a lot. That was a big ride. Let's talk about Disco Tempo. Wait, what now? Wait, what do you hold up? Before I go anywhere, what do you think is a high A tier? Oh, Mass Ball. I mean, I guess sure. If you think it's a high tier, then all the power to you. I don't really think it's that great. Okay, come on. It's so laggy. It doesn't let me drag anything. Great. Disco Tempo is a masterpiece level. I don't think you expected me to put it anywhere else other than Masterpiece. Disco Tempo is one of the most creative levels I've ever seen, and I use creative lightly because there are a lot of levels that are quote unquote creative that are absolute piles of garbage, like Melodic Metropolis and um, Moonlight Movement. Sorry, my brain just blacked out there for a second. There's a lot of levels that have potential and they do creative stuff, but that creativity turns out to be just disgusting and abhorrent and hurts my eyes. Disco Tempo, the way it uses reggae bridges is better than any other level, hands down. The way they put reggae bridges on movers is so clever. It's so smart and ingenious, and every single time League B uses those is perfection. Everything else about the level is also really great. The sync is literally perfectly on point, and the sync doesn't come at the expense of the quality of the routes at all. The objects, all used perfectly. Not a single object is sidelined. Every single object is used exactly the right amount they need to be. No object feels overused, no object feels underused. It's great. The collectibles, genius. Every single collectible in the level is perfect. It is genius. Again, the first crown has this like cheat that you can do to get it easier than the normal route, but I don't really have a problem with that. The level is really well made, it's really smart, and I just don't have anything bad to say about it. It's great. The ending theme kind of falls off a tiny bit, how it becomes empty and boring, but I mean, it's the end of the level. The song feels really simple, it fits the song really well, it's a good ending. I can't really criticize it for that either. Um, yeah, Disco Tempo is just good. This level was created by what DLFM created. This is almost no free space. I mean, like, listen, I never said that packed levels were necessarily bad. I think you can have a packed level and it can be really good, like Castle in the Sky or E Labyrinth. And why do you think open levels are generally not as good? That's only when the music feels overly energetic, or that's when the level just feels really underdeveloped and there's nothing interesting. For example, Samba is a really packed level, but it's also really easy. You can make packed levels that are good. Eternity is a extremely open level, and it's slow, and it's you think that I'd say it's dull and boring, but it's not. Eternity is hands down the best 1-star in the entire game because it's so clever in doing what it can do as a 1-star, and it's so impressive to me. So when someone says, oh, a level is bad because it's packed, or a level is bad because it's too empty, that's not true. There's plenty of packed and empty levels that are both good and bad, and I would love to use World Cup as an example of an empty level that is, you know, arguably good or bad, but we don't really need to do that. I think Disco Tempo is a masterpiece, and I don't think I'm ever going to change that. It's not as good as Bouncing City, though. Bouncing City just feels more fun. And Disco Tempo slightly goes under because of the music. A lot of people love the music. I don't. I think the music is pretty bad. And this is coming from someone who loves your SZC. His music, he made Chess Fortress, he made Melodic Metropolis, and he worked on Parade Pageantry, three of the best songs I've ever heard in the game. And I just don't think this song holds up, and it makes sense because he didn't make the song for Rolling Sky. The song is just a goofy ass like go happy go lucky song. It's just I don't like it. It doesn't have anything interesting about it. I think it's well made, but it's just not that good. Okay, time to read the comments. I'm actually like running out of breath talking this much. I didn't think that would actually happen, but wow, it's almost been 2 hours. That's crazy. IMO the level was very crowded, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the reggae bridge textures. That's fair, sure. If you thought the reggae bridge textures were bad, especially in the purple theme, all the power to you. A lot of people don't like how Disco Tempo is supposedly the main level because of the fact that the quote-unquote main theme looks like the secondary theme, and I will actually agree with that. The pink theme looks so much more natural than the blue theme, but because of all the other factors, I still think Disco Tempo deserves to be the title of the main. He was Tesserino and was selected based on his qualifications. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know Liga B is obviously privileged and there's bias that went into his selection, of course, both for the routes and the music for his Firefly value level. But I don't really mind bias as long as the bias is oriented towards something that is generally a masterpiece, arguably. When it comes to things like bias for Sewing Factory or Industrial Era, or musical theater, yeah, that's when I start to have a problem with that. Or fan maids, obviously. But when it comes to bias in terms of someone that I am pretty certain is good, then I don't have a problem when Minimax decides to put them in front of everyone else. Um, okay. If I stop yapping, well, no, it's the whole point of the stream. People who say BPR is main probably don't realize the level is. Okay, well, like a lot of people who argue that Beach Party Rock is the main, they kind of just ignore the fact that Disco Tempo came first because they say Beach Party Rock was originally intended to be the main, which is true, but just because it was intended to be the main doesn't mean that it is the main now. Talk about how weird some level titles are. Trying to think about some of them. Well, Lab Confidential, I thought that was weird at first. It's so natural now. Same with Mutation Crisis. Melodic Metropolis is one of the best names ever given. Bouncing City it's a simple name, but it perfectly fits the style of the level. Biology Lab, it's kind of weird. It's kind of boring. It's kind of meaningless. It's whatever. Nuclear Energy is just, I mean, okay. It's just as generic as the level is, honestly. It doesn't feel special. Observatory makes no fucking sense. I get it that observatory is meant to, observe the daytime and nighttime stuff, but there's nothing about an actual observatory that actually plays into this. It's just a bunch of abstract stuff with suns and moons. It's a weird name choice. I don't like it. The worst name by far has to be Moonlight Movement, fucking motherfucker, whatever. It was such a stupid name, and they only did that because, whoa, whoopity do, it's a complicated name. Oh my god, we're so cool. Shut the fuck up. This name sucks ass. It is so bad. I hate repeating this name over and over again. That's why I call it Moonlight Movement or Midnight Movement. I don't care. It's just such a weird roll of the tongue, and it hurts my mouth when I say it out loud. Yeah, that's really everything I have to say about the names. Again, Harmonic Streets is generic as fuck. Parade Pageantry, it just doesn't work anymore because the level doesn't feel like a parade. That's why I just have a big issue with that. Tribal Hunting, sure. Jungle Expedition, whatever. Lively Spirits is actually, it's the most unfitting name. I can't believe I forgot about that. Lively Spirits is the worst name you could have possibly given to a level that feels so dead and empty and meaningless. I think that's all I have to say about the names. I'm actually glad you said that because that is a big part of how I feel about these levels. Happy birthday, Beanie Boo Club, if it is actually your birthday. Okay, this is the last level, but I mean, like, if you want me to talk about the remaining 3 levels, then we can do that. Just say, like, yeah, keep talking about it, and I will. If not, then I'll just end the stream and I'll save these for Season 2. Beach Party Rock. It's okay. It's okay. It's just okay. It's okay. If I was able to talk about everything else that went behind the scenes in this level, oh my god. Oh my god, it would definitely be in a different place, that's for sure. It would not be in the OK tier. It would be in a very different spot on the tier making list. However, if I'm to only judge the level based on the routes themselves, then I'm only going to judge the level based on the routes themselves. Now, I'm aware, and most of you are aware, that not all of these routes are actually made by Games Legend. However, I'm just going to talk about them as if they were made by like just a pair of two people. I'm not going to specify which route was made by which person. I'm just going to say made by Legend and Hydrate, for the simplicity of it. So, their routes are, yeah, I mean, like, I'm literally just gonna refer to them as they them. So, good job. You got me to that point now. Um, so, Beach Party Rock is just a, think about it like this. There's artists that you like, right? I don't care if it's a furry artist, if it's Jizoku or Amber's art, or if it's just another artist, or if it's just someone in Rolling Sky like RSGD, or TCT, or Kato/Grumpy Renzo. It would be like comparing their art that feels genuine and stylish and it's tied to them personally, comparing that art to made by like a corporate company like Facebook or Discord. That's how it feels when I compare most levels to Beach Party Rock. Beach Party Rock feels like generic slop made by a corporate company. It feels so lack of personality. There's nothing personality wise that ties into this level. It's just a bunch of forgettable generic slop we've seen a million times before in other levels, and it just doesn't excel in anything at all. It spams a bunch of animated effects, which is just uncreative as shit. It doesn't require any interesting ideas whatsoever. You can just place a bunch of effects that have been used before and other unused effects that have never been used in levels. But the point is, it's just not creative. It doesn't make the level stand out like Disco Tempo does, and that's another reason why I believe Disco Tempo deserves the title of the main more, because it takes more bold risks and earns it. Beach Party Rock just uses a bunch of effects and says, "Oh my god, whoopity doo! Look at how unique my level is," and that doesn't work. You can't trick the player base into thinking your level is good just because you spam a bunch of stuff that they've seen before. And I do know, again, from my early viewing of this level, that it used to be, it was a viewing that I got from a beta tester, it used to be very heavy with effects, and they dialed it down a bit, and it still wasn't enough. Again, I know exactly the two people that helped, and maybe there were probably more people, but I know of two main people that helped Games Legend route this level, and I have to say, how the fuck did you let this through? If your job was to help him make this level, you failed utterly, spectacularly, terribly. You did not improve this level whatsoever. It was pretty much just as bad back then as the final product is now. Because what you did is you took a level that was pretty bad but had some slight personality in it, and you reduced it to a generic corporate looking slop that looks like it was designed by X. That's how bad this is. And the reason why I'm putting it in okay though is because even though it's a bunch of generic slop, it does have some admirable routes, and coincidentally, those are the routes that are made by Hydrate, the good collectible looking routes. And everything else just really sucks. It's just boring. The way they use falling jump pads is useless. The music is generic as fuck. I love Meng He. I listen to Rainbow Castle, and it's one of my favorite songs of all time. However, I just don't like this song. It's boring. It's meaningless. And the worst part about the immersion of this level is that it completely ignores the idea of beach party rock. There is no rock in this level. There's no electric guitars. There's no rock aspects in the music. There's no lightning bolts. There's just nothing. And I don't know how they fumbled so hard with that idea. But yeah, it's just generic ass level. Pretty boring. It's just nothing special is going for it whatsoever. And I will not be surprised if it gets quickly forgotten. So, gonna rank season 2 levels now. Well, we don't have all of them, yes, but I mean, I could rank the remaining ones we have now. Let me see how far behind my voice is in the stream. Okay, you know what? I think we're gonna rank the remaining 3, because why the fuck not? Starlight Desert. It's okay. It's not a masterpiece. It's not that good either. It's just okay. The reason for that is because Starlight Desert, the one thing going for it is, oh my gosh, that one theme with all the falling stars and all the jump boosts and all the glass and blocks. It's so cool, and the rest of the level is just generic slop. The rest of the level is generic. It's forgettable. Nobody talks about anything other than that one super jump spam part, and nothing else about the level is memorable in the slightest. That is exactly what this creator knew. The person who routed this level, Sinservation, the professional block guy, knew exactly that this level was going to be generic and forgotten, so he threw in this giant ass memorable spamming section, which is fine. It looks fine, but again, the creativity is not the best. It doesn't require that much to spam a bunch of jump pads and stars. And it's literally the same idea as Alone, where towards like the 60% mark of the level, they just spam a bunch of jump pads and then they add a bunch of blocks everywhere. And it's the same principle with this level, except they have stars now. And that I just don't think that you can't use that as an excuse to argue that the level is good. It's not that good. It's just forgettable and it's boring. The object usage is not that great either. There's a lot of objects that he sidelines and uses literally one single time, and then there's some objects that he uses like a bit, but then never anywhere else in any interesting creative ways. The textures are fine, but I mean, there's nothing more to say about that. They're just okay. If you look into the texture files, though, the enemy texture is just a copy of Brazil. Like, it is just a perfect copy. Every single color down to the lasers and every square is exactly the same. And that's just, I mean, it's lazy, but it doesn't really influence the final product of the level. So I'm not really going to talk about that. But I do think that the green aspect of the level, how they put green in both themes, looks really fucking gross. It looks ugly. Green was never supposed to be a color in these themes. It doesn't fit whatsoever. Yellow, orange, and purple are the best colors that they could have had, and green was a terrible, terrible addition to the level, and it really does ruin a lot of the aesthetics for me. In terms of the music, another unpopular opinion, the music is not very good. I can't really describe why I dislike the music from a standpoint that general audiences understand, because this is very, music-esque, and I'm big on music, and I'm big on, composition and how it works. But the way the music is made is, if you were to divide up each section into its different components, like each section based on whenever the style changes to a new melody or new instruments, that becomes a new section, right? If you were to divide up all the sections, and they're all different lengths. Like, none of them are, they're not organized in any way whatsoever. You might have one section that's 4 bars long, one section that's 8, one section that's 16, one section that's 12 bars long, or 3 bars long. It's hard to explain again without actually, getting you into specific music theory, but it just sucks. It's so badly put together. It feels like the song creator Yan Dongwei just took all these different melodies and Frankensteined them together with zero thought. Nothing about this song feels cohesive whatsoever. And at first I thought, you know what, maybe it's because the original song was probably 4 minutes long, like a bunch of other Yan Dongwei songs, and the developers had no choice but to splice together all of the tracks, and they just did it terribly. So I went back to the Rolling Lounge Discord server and I clicked on the link to find the original song, and the original song is just as bad, if not worse. It's not the fault of the developers. The original song is basically the same, except the tiny differences are even worse than the final product in the game. Nothing about the song is organized. It is a mess. However, I do think the song sounds fine if you were to just ignore that fact that it's completely misshapen and disorganized, but the way it's put together is horrible. Firefly Valley. Okay. It's better than Beach Party Rock. It is not better than Mutation Crisis. Firefly Valley is another level like Metropolis, where it started out as a 5-star and got reduced to a 3/4 star, and I don't think it happened. I don't think it was a smooth change. A lot of the level feels really messy. There's a lot of spamminess, there's a lot of psychedelic blocks, and it's just really hard to see some stuff. And it's pretty obvious that was the case because the router decided to just put a bunch of mover arrows to indicate where the ball should go. Firstly, I have to say that the mover arrows don't actually work sometimes. Sometimes they point to a direction that the ball doesn't actually. It tricks you essentially, and I think that's just a terrible way to use them. And it's really annoying since that part of the level is completely unsight readable, and I just don't like how it's done. Not only that, but when you just look at all the other collectibles, all of them are terrible. The crowns are they're horrible. The gems are horrible. They have a forced gem at the end, which again serves no purpose if you force the player to collect a crown or a gem. And I just don't understand why the level was made the way it was. I mean, listen, I understand if you like the song. I don't like the way the glass detail works. I don't like how the level starts out empty as shit sometimes and then gets really overbearingly complicated in other times. It just feels like an absolute mess of a level. I'm glad that they removed the double ball portal. I'm glad that they removed a bunch of other things, but it just turned out to be really bad. I also think it was a missed opportunity that the router didn't put in the animated background effect from Chronos, where it's literally fireflies. Like, there are fireflies. There's a firefly animated background effect, and the router did not use it. Why they didn't use it is absolutely beyond me. But sucks to suck, I guess. Firefly is it's not generic. It's just badly made. I haven't even talked about the song yet. I hate the song. I think the song is disgusting. It really does feel like a song that a novice creator would make inside GarageBand. It just feels so repetitive. He uses the same track loops over and over and over again. It never fucking stops. There's this sound that I hear. It's like, I don't really know how to actually put it into perspective as to what this sounds like, but it sounds like a really rapid clicking noise. And Lee Gabi, the song composer, uses this constantly. Constantly. It sounds so bad. It sounds like an actual vomit projected into my ears. And everything else about the level is just boring. It just feels really goofy the way it has a drum and bass loop, except it's so light and insignificant. And I just hate how like jumpy the song is. It doesn't have any weight to it. Even Starlight Desert, which I will criticize for being completely disorganized, it has weight to it. The beats feel really heavy. It feels like a really interesting song, especially the ending, how it like ramps up and it sounds really intimidating. Firefly Valley does not have that. It sounds like a mess. It sounds like a mess all the way through. So it's going in the okay tier. It's not terrible, but it's not that great. I have to put it above Beach Party Rock though, because at least the routes have something original going for them, and they're not just generic slop. And I wish we could end on a high note, but unfortunately, we have the last co-creation level publicly as of now. I mean, listen, let's do a little vote. Where do you think that this level is going to go? It's gonna go in okay. Is it gonna go in good? Is it a masterpiece? Is it actual dog shit? Is it bad? Well, you'd actually be really surprised to learn that I actually would probably put it in, dog shit. I mean, like, come on, where else do you think I was going to put this piece of garbage? I think I'm going to put it above Sewing Factory. It's not better than Lively Spirits, though. Again, it's hard to criticize this level without just repeating everything I just said about Sewing Factory, but I actually have some unique things to say about this level that don't apply to Sewing Factory's atrocity that it was. Industrial Era fundamentally misunderstands every single thing about creating a rolling sky level. It is another case of a router being brought back to the game because he's friends with officials who are friends with the developers, so they brought him back out of bias, and it was a mistake. It was a mistake. This router is garbage. I don't care if their original levels were better. Maybe they were. Maybe they were the best router of all time back in the day, in 2021 and 2022. I don't give a flying fuck. I'm sorry. I have to be the asshole and say that right now, because the final level of Industrial Era is one of the worst levels I've ever seen in the entire game. It's worse than Tsunami. It is worse than Tsunami. I don't think that it's worse in terms of like creativity and originality, but it's worse in terms of routes. Tsunami has better routes than this pile of garbage, and so does Unsuccessful Person. And even Sewing Factory actually has almost better routes than this level. I could talk endlessly about how awful Industrial Era is. Let's talk about the glass detail first. The glass detail sucks cheeks. Sucks Luna titty ass cheeks. The way they use glass is the same way they would use glass in Chess Fortress or Crisscross, where it's just this checkerboard design all the way through. And it works in chess levels because, that's chess. You have to have a checkerboard like design, and it fits really well in the aesthetic of the level. This level does not work. It doesn't work when you use a checkerboard design in a fucking dystopian atrocity of an industrial level. It does not work. So that's why I think the glass design is just terrible. And again, it's uncreative as shit. Anyone could make a checkerboard glass design. It doesn't require any creativity whatsoever. The glass design sucks. Um, Secondly, the textures suck. This isn't a fault of the router, but they just really suck. Not just the yellow ball problem, that's just a regular thing now that I've come to accept, but the red theme looks so disgusting. Not because it just blends everything in such an unsatisfying diarrhea-esque way, but because it barely looks different from the main theme. Nothing about this theme feels distinct. It just feels like a reddened, like distorted, desaturated version of the main theme. It feels so lazily made, and I really hope that they, try and do something about these textures later, because again, and I don't this is such a weird phenomenon. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how Industrial Era became so garbage, because like it it was made by the same people who made Bouncing City. The concept was made by those people. It was made by CG and Sinservation and other people, and it was made in the same way too. It was presented with, you have four, five different view angles of each obstacle. They're colored to perfection. Every single design is exactly the way that the creators intended them to, and while the modeling team translated that fairly well and added in a bunch of other stuff, it just fell so far off in every other corner in the level. The routes are the worst. The textures are the worst. The song is pretty shit. I haven't talked about that yet. I love Samsung. I love all of his songs, and I was so pissed off that every single time they brought him, it was to put in a soundtrack for a boring ass 1-star extra bonus that nobody on the fucking game asked for. But then he was finally brought in to make a song for this level, and I was like, oh my god, that's so cool, finally! And it was a shit one. The song is complete garbage, and it makes sense because this is one of his earlier songs where he just wasn't as good at the time. The song is just generic dubstep slop. It's worse than anything the Zoftel creator of Mutation Crisis has ever done, because it's so generic and boring. There's nothing interesting about this dubstep shit whatsoever, except for the beginning. The opening is so intimidating, and it tells you this level doesn't fuck around. This is a badass opening to a song, and then it just falls off so hard. The build-up is boring, the drop is boring, everything else about the level is boring. The meme insert with that vocal line is disgustingly terrible and unfunny as shit, and it's outdated as hell because nobody cares about it anymore. And yeah, that's all I have to say about the song. It really sucks, and the song is extremely short. Who the hell... I don't know which developer decided to cut it down from its original version, but they did a horrible ass job. Now, going back to the routes are just the worst. They're so bad. I was telling this to Walker and some other people in a voice chat earlier, where I was criticizing a level, and I realized over time that, funny enough, the more unique ways a level has, the more interesting it is. Which is extremely weird, because that just seems like two completely unrelated things, but it's actually true. If you have more unique ways in a level, it means that your level has more freedom to move around in. It means that your objects are more neatly dispersed. It means that you have better control over the player. And if you were to just make a level that is a single path that the player has to follow 100% and there's no unique ways whatsoever, the route turns out to be pretty garbage. A lot of the reason why I think my levels are pretty bad is because there are barely any unique ways whatsoever. There's no leeway to go anywhere at all. And that's just I don't know how, it's just a phenomenon that makes levels worse than they could be. And I don't really know what else to say about that. Especially the build up in Industrial Era, it's a straight line that you have to follow, and you can't deviate to go anywhere else, and that's what makes it so bad. The sync sucks. The sync is terrible. The whole build up was made for the sync, and it doesn't work whatsoever. It falls flat on its ass. And it sucks that we had to end on such a terrible note, but it's just true. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. Bouncing City is great. Disco Tempo is great. Lab Confidential was promising, kind of a letdown, but still pretty great. Nick Kingdom was also great. I think that these 4 levels at the top, this is a solid example of what I would love to see in co-creation. All of this is great. And everything else, all this stuff could have improvement. This stuff is just like, I'd rather I never saw it again. This stuff needs to be eradicated from the face of the earth. So, I hope you all enjoyed the stream, because, wow, that was actually pretty fun. That was fun, bro. I mean, I really enjoyed my time. I don't know if y'all enjoyed ranting about a bunch of levels for 2 hours straight, but I thoroughly enjoyed talking about all that, and I can't wait to see all of the different AI covers of my voice because of this live stream. But yeah, that's good shit. Bouncing City is just a really fun level. I love it a lot. Hot Take Sewing Factory is a bit better than Industrial Age. You know what? It is. It is better than Industrial Age. The reason why is because of the textures and the objects. The objects and textures just look way better than Industrial Age. And why they're calling it Industrial Era this entire time, I meant to say Industrial Age. It doesn't matter, this level is a piece of garbage, nobody cares. But I think Sewing Factory is slightly better, even though I think the routes are a tiny bit worse. But I don't really mind because, again, at least the level is somewhat not as terrible to, put your eyes on. Yeah, I really did spend 2 hours yapping about co-creation, didn't I? That was a fun stream. I loved it. I mean, like, I don't really have a good outro or anything. I'm just gonna like cut the stream off in front of your fucking faces. But it was nice that y'all stayed here. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm gonna bring back the Starlight levels and Industrial level for a season 2 live stream if I am still around to do that. And I mean, I could do other live streams. I guess there's some other things I want to talk about, but I thoroughly enjoy that. So I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, like, I hope I didn't hurt anyone's feelings about, especially when it comes to Parade Pageantry or Master Ball or Beach Party Rock. But I try to be as objective and emotionless as I could possibly be. I mean, here's the thing. There's one thing I will say that is honestly kind of depressing, but it's true. Minimax will never get better with co-creation. The reason for this is because they have wildly different things going on for every single level. They have different routers, they have different people who model the objects. Sometimes the modelers will do a great job, sometimes they'll do a shit job. Sometimes they'll pick a great soundtrack, sometimes they'll pick a really terrible one, and you can never convince Minimax to just quote unquote get better over time because they won't. There's so many differing opinions on what makes good quality of anything, and sometimes somebody who thinks that a texture or a route or a soundtrack is good when it turns out to be absolute garbage to the majority of the community, that'll just happen every once in a while and you can't control it. So if you are hoping to that co-creation will get better, I'm sorry, it probably won't. There will definitely be a lot of good levels in the future, but there will also be a lot of bad levels in the future. And I think the same applies for the official levels too, because there's just a lot of different people working on these levels, and some of them are great, some of them are terrible. Even the good ones, even the people, the routers, texture makers, song composers, sometimes they make bad songs even if they make good songs. They make bad routes even if they make good routes. Square Root is a perfect example. He made Jade Rabbit, one of my favorite levels of all time. He also made Dino Disco, one of my least favorite levels of all time. And I'm sure that the router for Happy has made some great levels that I like, but they've also made Happy, which is one of the most disgusting ass levels I've ever laid my eyes upon, and ears upon, actually. But I sure hope the industrial bonus is good. We've hit rock bottom, honestly. The industrial is at the very bottom, so I don't see how the bonus could possibly be worse. But even so, if it's better in terms of routes, all of the issues with textures will still apply. And of course, the song is completely up in the air. I've actually heard the song, and I can tell you that it's okay. I mean, it's pretty generic. It's pretty repetitive. You've definitely heard it before if you play Geometry Dash. And I mean, I don't know. You'll probably like it, but the level it's just kind of a boring ass song. It's just generic stuff you've heard a million times before. But it really depends on the routes, how the routes deal with the level. But I guess we'll see. Dino Disco, I don't hate it. But a lot of people do. I actually like Dino Disco, but I'm not going to deny that it has some of the worst routes in the entire game. But I mean, I don't think it's I love playing the level actually. I respect Square Root for trying something new. I think that he failed spectacularly, but I really appreciate the attempt anyway. And I personally think it's a fun level, but a lot of people hate it, and I do not want to argue against them whatsoever. I think it's a pretty bad level actually, even though I like it. Um, I'm just like reading through the comments, see if I want to comment on anything else. Nick Kingdom, yeah, I mean, it was good. It had a bunch of setbacks, but I think overall it puts it in A tier. It's pretty solid. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I really don't have anything else to say. So, I mean, it was a really fun stream, and I'm not sure if this stream will get like unlisted onto YouTube, but if it does, I'll just leave it public again because who really cares? Um, Let me just bring back YouTube. Okay, I'm literally my cursor is hovering over the end stream button. So, uh, with all that being said, I will see all of you later. Bye bye.